hi. Oh, well, there we go. There, I can hear myself, sort of. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. I'm your host, the Dharma Guy, as always with the Dope Doctor. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
It's been an interesting day, man.
It always is.
It's never a dull moment here at Surf Monkey Studios.
Surf Monkey Media Studios.
Yes. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot the media part.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really even said that.
Really?
I think you've always been the one that says it. Anyways, I digress. It's been a hot day today so far. I'm talking the kind of heat where when you walk out, you get suffocated. You can't even breathe. It's ridiculous. Having said that, we do have a hurricane coming, or a tropical storm.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's in the tropics. It should be hitting. Actually, I think here in New Smyrna Beach. That's where the projections are.
What's his name?
Dorian.
Wait, Dorian?
I don't know if it's a he or she, but it's Dorian.
Yeah,
like Pat.
I don't know what to call it, a he or she.
I don't know either. I think Dorian Gray, isn't that a dude from 50 Shades of something or other?
Wasn't that your favorite movie?
No, I've never seen it, actually. My wife has, oddly enough.
50 times.
Yeah. Who knows? But anyways, so we hope to be here next week. I'm pretty sure we will be. Yeah. But it's supposed to make landfall here, I believe, sometime on Sunday morning. And I believe it is, at the moment anyways, the current projections have it hitting, it looked to be right around here. But it'll be just a tropical storm, so I'm not too worried about it, I guess. Sucks for people in Puerto Rico and was it, I think...
Dominican Republic, you said.
Dominican Republic and I think Barbados, I believe. I don't know. There's a bunch of islands that are getting ready to get wrecked a little bit, but...
Look, man, you're on a friggin' island in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Like, every year it happens. It's
exactly.
like being in Florida and, a hurricane. Of course there's a hurricane.
Yes. So, anyways, let's do some housekeeping, then we'll get started.
Guess what? There's probably an earthquake happening in California soon, too.
Well, didn't they have like 100 or something?
And a tornado happening in Kansas soon.
And they had like 200. So, yeah. All right, so our sponsors, we got to thank them. Without them, we couldn't do what we do.
That's right.
We have Retreat Behavioral Health, Journey Pure, and Gatehouse Treatment.
Gatehouse.
All three treatment facilities that we work closely with through our other sponsor, which is the Now Matters More Foundation. You can see what we do at nowmattersmore.org. There you can read about us. You can donate. You can check out what we do. Or you can call 833-NOW-MATTERS, and we'll help you navigate the system and get you some help.
That's right.
Then we have Orange County Drug Free Coalition, which we're both members of, and they've been sponsoring The Couch Live, our other show on Fridays from 12 to 1, for 20 years. Yeah,
20 years.
20 years.
Oh, are you trying to... Yeah, I know what you did.
Yeah, well, you complained about it yesterday. So.
I saw what you did there.
Anyways, and our last but not least...
He's trying to get points.
We have Sports Subaru South. They're doing an event called Share the Love, and it's from November 15th to December 31st, to where they are going to give a combined total of $500 from both the local one and the Subaru as a whole.
That's awesome.
Per car sold during that time. Thank you very much for that. Very, very looking forward to that. And of course, you can always...
Speaking of that Subaru that we saw there the other day?
Yeah, it was a nice one.
What was that? That was pretty cool.
Oh, I don't remember now.
All-wheel drive?
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
It was all macked out, but it was all macked out.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. Yeah. And then, of course, always you can follow us on social media. On Instagram, it's at WPSN99, at The Dope Doctor, at The Dharma Guy. And you can always check out these live shows. Will be reposted, edited on YouTube, youtube.com/Dharma Time. I think we got it all out.
Wow.
There's a lot there, man.
Wow.
There's a lot.
Wow.
Anyways, so self-disappointment. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed in you as well.
You know what? Join the club, bro. Join the club. It's been a crazy week, man, and it's only Tuesday. So
we all got someone we're disappointed in. That's for sure.
Exactly.
But self-disappointment, that's another animal.
It is, and I think there's multiple layers of self-disappointment, and then we'll cover as many as we can today, I guess, because I think it's a multi-faceted thing that people deal with. I think there's levels of I mean, we hear it a lot in the addiction world, right? And people are disappointed when they feel like, oh, why can't I just stop? Why do I keep doing these things?
Right.
In the fitness world, I have a lot of people who self-sabotage as well, who can't kind of stay with it. Even myself, I've had behaviors in the past, and then even behaviors I still have. I'll say, man, I want to stop doing that, and then I find myself doing it again, you know? And then the other one is benchmarks, right? We as human beings, we have different benchmarks we feel we should meet, certain expectations of ourselves that we think that we should attain a certain level of maybe success or professionalism or what have you. And when that we feel like we haven't met that, that's when the disappointment comes in.
Right.
So I think one of the things you said when we had this conversation, when we were trying to figure out what the topic is going to be, you were talking about fear of failure, fear of success.
Yeah.
How it kind of freezes you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty interesting. You were rattling off so quick.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember it. So
yeah, but
it's a one-take Jake, man. You get it or you don't. I already forgot what I said.
Well, we're gonna try it again.
Oh boy.
But no, because I think we were coming at it from two different angles, right? I was coming from the self-disappointment angle of, why did I do this even though I shouldn't have, kind of a thing.
Right.
And you were coming from the angle of the what angle were you coming from? No, you were coming from the paralysis by analysis kind of thing.
When my memory problems start getting into you, we're in trouble.
This is going to be a problem.
No, yeah. All right. So
because I think we all know about I call it paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
In which I didn't coin that term, obviously. I stole it as my own. But I do hear that a lot, though. I hear that people kind of get frozen with this whole woulda, coulda, shoulda type thing. Like, I don't want to do this because of this, or it's all convoluted, and then what ends up happening is nothing.
Well,
like no progress was made, and no bad decisions were made because nothing was made because the fear of what could be.
Right.
I think that's what you were getting at.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
So
you did get it. Look. I mean, self-esteem, is important. And there's a lot of people.
You heard it here first, kids. Self-esteem is important.
But a lot of people freeze up because they fail themselves so much. So just think about all the times. Well, let me back up. Just think about all the people that you feel have failed you. Tons, right? You can always say, "Man, this person did this to me." This person, and you can go on and on and on. But nobody has failed me more than me. Yeah. Nobody has hurt me more than me. So if I continue to have disappointed myself, eventually, within your lifetime, and I know it's happened to me, where it's like you get real frustrated and you say, well, screw it, man. I mean, I just can't do that.
Right.
And so why do I want to keep feeling like a failure? Why do I want to keep feeling that disappointment over and over again? Well, instead, it's a lot easier then to say, well, I just can't do it, or maybe I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I never like that, and you'll see people do that with education. You'll see them say, "Well, I'm just not a school person. School's not for me, or that job is not for me, or I'm just not the kind of person that does that. I'm not like that." We modify based on those disappointments and failures.
Right.
Well, when your self-esteem keeps getting a hit like that, eventually, what you stop doing is you stop trying to do things or stop doing things that could be highly successful for fear of failure. You can fear failure and you can fear success. Some people have not done well with success, so they don't want to succeed anymore. Like, whoa, don't give me $1 million. I don't know what I'll do with it.
Well, the other thing I think with success, too, is I think a lot of people get so comfortable in failing that they just get used to failing. They get used to that inevitable, struggle, if you will.
Yeah.
They almost get, addicted to the struggle. And so they just, if I'm not struggling, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know how not to struggle, kind of a thing. Right. And I see that a lot, especially in the quote unquote broke community. I think a lot of people feel that way.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of blame towards others. When you fail yourself so much, it's real hard. Again, it's real hard to take responsibility of failing yourself and disappointing yourself. So it's much easier to blame other people for doing that,
right.
And it's much easier to blame the circumstances that you're in. It's I'm in this circumstance because of this person or that person, or because I live here, because I wasn't born like this, or because I don't have these kinds of parents, or because I don't live in that city, or I don't have these friends, or I don't know that person. Whatever your reasons are. It's just real hard, and I get it. It's real hard to look within yourself and say, really, I'm sick and tired of disappointing myself.
Right.
And the people that do that are people that might have clinical depression. What, doo-doo?
You said doo-doo.
Yeah, I did. Such a child. There's people with severe depression issues or suicidal tendencies or suicidal ideations, and they tend to do that a lot. I'm such a piece of shit. I've done this to myself. Look what I did. And so, I mean, there's two extremes, right?
Yeah.
One, you take no responsibility and you blame everybody else for your problem. The other extreme is you take all the weight and you blame yourself for everything and just feel like there's no way out of the situation.
Yeah, and I think that part of that issue that I see a lot, actually, especially now that I have kids, even, and then even in the addiction world, doing different counseling and stuff, what I see a lot is people's expectations are kind of distorted at times. Like I'll hear people talk about how they feel like they failed or they're disappointed, and then I'm hearing why, like their expectations around them. I'm like, hold up, like you're asking yourself to behave like somebody who's been, like chiseled out of stone for the last 30 years, and like, wait a minute, Your other words, like for instance, if you're just starting out in the, let's say, the Wall Street world, I don't know why this first popped in my head.
Okay.
But if you're starting out like the Wall Street mode and you're comparing yourself to somebody like the big money dude, I cannot think of his
Trump?
name. Warren Buffett. I've seen stories on Warren Buffett, and I've seen how successful he is, and I know what he does. Like he reads like every morning, like he reads all the paper. Like he's had decades of just honing his skill and being what he does. And so if you starting in that world and you're comparing yourself to that guy, I got bad news for you. There's only one Warren Buffett. There's a reason why we all know his name. He's an outlier. And so if you're comparing yourself, if your expectations are to behave like him, it's never going to happen. You got to be the best version of you, and I think that a lot of people do that. A lot of people have these weird, crazy expectations of like, hey, or even when it comes to behavioral changes, right? Like, if you've spent your entire life, let's use weight loss, for instance, just because I have a history in that world.
Right.
If you've spent your entire life emotionally eating, and you spent your entire life avoiding exercises and developing all these bad habits that are causing weight gain to happen, just because on Sunday you say, I'm going to start on Monday, doesn't mean that starting Monday you're going to have a track record now of 365 days in a row of killing it.
Amen.
It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic to think that you're going to get rid of like 30 years of bad habits in one day because you said make it so.
Right.
Are there people out there that can do that? Absolutely. And good for them.
Or it appears that way.
But that's not realistic.
Right.
In all reality, if you've had a lifetime of bad habits and you're saying, okay, starting Monday I want to start a diet, that's the first step.
Right.
You've acknowledged it, you want to do something about it, that's awesome, good for you. And then if you were better than you have been for the last several Mondays, that's good, that's a win. Are you perfect? No. Stop expecting yourself to be, because then what happens, what I see especially in the diet world, is Monday will come, I'm going to start my diet, great, breakfast is doing pretty good.
Right.
Come in between lunchtime, there's a snack there, maybe you have a bag of Oreos, or those little things of Oreos or something like that, and then you're like, oh, see, I'm such a failure, I screwed up, I can't even do this, and then you go off the cliff, and then the whole rest of the day is eating whatever you can it's in sight because I already screwed up. Right. That's what happens with those expectations, and then you just keep that cycle going, and it just never ends. And so that's where that self-disappointment, to me anyway, starts to take a bad turn.
Right. Well, in regards to like that, what you're saying, I think of people that
Oh, wait a minute, hold on.
Well, somebody said something.
We've got a special guest.
Huh? Okay.
Mr. Corbin Forrester decided to tune in today. And he loves your shirt, by the way.
Hey,
that's right,
Corbin Forrester.
What's up, brother?
Number 7 truck in the game. What is it? The Heat.
Yes,
NASCAR Heat 3. And then he sent me a snapshot of the new NASCAR Heat 4, where the Corbin Forrester number 7 has the WPSN99.com logo.
And if you guys aren't following him, make sure you go follow him on social media. He's a good guy, man.
Yeah, Corbin's awesome.
Forrester.
What's up, Corbin?
Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's not every day Corbin shines in and
it's not every day a NASCAR driver jumps on your feed,
right.
huh?
Exactly.
I don't even know what I was going to say. You know darn well that
squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. No. Look, we're going to talk about this disappointment, and you're going to get into it. It's hard not to talk about it without talking about others, right?
Yeah.
But this show, we're trying to dedicate it just simply that self-disappointment.
Yes.
What I was going to say was, I don't like to count other people's money.
Right.
I'm against it. I don't like it. I don't like when we tend to feel comfortable or uncomfortable with our own financial situation by counting other people's money or how much they make or what they do with their money.
Sure.
I do the same with emotional stuff. I don't like to count my happiness with other people's happiness. I don't like to measure up against anyone. I don't like to compare to anyone, because I know what I experience, and I feel very comfortable in knowing that whatever emotions I experience, every human being on this planet has. So regardless of what I see, I'm taking a snapshot of them, and I don't want to do that, because you could take a lot of snapshots of me, and depending on the given day, you're going to come up with what you come up with. So here's why I say that. You mentioned Warren Buffett and stuff like that. Listen, the problem we have with our own personal expectations on ourselves is when we start measuring up against people that appear to have what we want. That can be a very negative thing. Now, if you're going to use them for fuel so that you get motivated is one thing, but if you find it to be damaging to you and you find it to be actually hurting you and making you feel worse about yourself, then you're not doing it right. And I think you need to recognize that. Yeah. I think that if you don't like the level of disappointment you have in yourself, then you need to change the way you view other people. View them as practice on viewing them as motivation rather than viewing them as competitors. They're not competing against you.
No.
Matter of fact, there's probably it's probably okay for 100% of the people in the world to be happy at a given time. Now, do I find that to be a true statement? No, it's not going to happen. So this is the way I look at it. 20% of the people are actually happy with their lives. And I'm just giving you a round number. Let's say 20% of the people in this planet, or in the United States, let's just stick to that, are happy with the way their lives are. Well, I don't want to be part of the 80%. So if I'm hanging around with a bunch of people that are unhappy, I don't want to be in that situation.
You are what you hang around.
Yeah. So first of all, I know a factual statement. Who you hang around does impact how you are. For instance, Trinity the other day, or I think it was yesterday, blamed me for his not working out or loving working out as much as he used to. He blamed me.
I didn't blame you. I just acknowledged.
But the factual statement that he said was, I'm no longer hanging around a bunch of guys that are so focused on exercising and working out, so I find myself not to be as motivated to do that, whereas instead I'm hanging out with you a lot and you're just not into it, so I find myself... Now, that was a very true statement, and I think you can go with that on this topic, Trinity. I think you can expand on that self-disappointment because a lot of it is based on, number one, your age, what your current interests are, where you currently are as a mature man, as a married man, and the negative stuff, like what you've already dealt with. You've dealt with some of the issues that actually gave you that fuel. So I think you can use that for this conversation. I think
the other thing with self-disappointment, kind of what you were talking about with the comparing with others and things of that nature. The thing that popped in my head, though, is when it comes to goals, especially with spirituality, like when it comes to Buddhist practice, too many times I hear people assume from what they hear that with the Buddhist practice, it's all about being like a robot and not wanting anything in life. And that couldn't be further from the case. The difference, though, is like I have goals and dreams and wants like everybody else does, but I no longer require that specific outcome for me to find happiness.
Right.
Like I'm happy regardless. That's a choice that I make every day to be happy. Now, does that mean I'm satisfied with every aspect of my life every day?
Right.
No, of course not.
Right.
There's things that I actively try to make better or I try to achieve or whatever. But my happiness is no longer predicated on external things. Like I choose to be that way.
Right.
But that's not to say that I don't get disappointed in sometimes. But I choose, and this is going to be one of our things later on. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned. I choose to look at my internal self-disappointments as more of a learning, a lesson, if you will, than a failure. Like if I do something that didn't meet expectations that I've set for myself, if I do something contrary to that, my response isn't a complete breakdown, and I'm just like, I'm a horrible person, what's wrong with me, whatever. My response is, ooh, I obviously haven't reached that level yet. There's more work to be done. And then I try to analyze and investigate what led to that deviation from my expectations. Like I have this set expectation for myself. This is what I want, and I feel that that's what I want, and I feel like I'm working towards that. So if I make a decision that deviates from that, I have to say, okay, what led up to that decision? Why did I do that? What caused that to happen? And so instead of just completely throwing in the hat and saying, well, I'm done, no, it's like, okay, I need to be aware of that for next time, because there will be a next time. There's going to be another time where I'm going to be exposed to a decision, and I could go either towards my goal or away from my goal, and then I need to figure out what it was that led me away from it, so I can make that decision, next time that takes me towards my goal. And I think too many people do look at like all or none, and I think that all or none is a mistake.
Right. Alongside with that, the problem with disappointing yourself is some people look at it like it further tears you down as an individual. Like you start adding them up like a score sheet, right?
Yeah.
And like you can't get it back. You know, it's like strokes on a golf course. Like if you keep on having a bad shot, and then the score is just going to go up, and by the time you die, you have this real high score. Instead of being on par or under par, you have 100 score, 120 or something like that, some ridiculous golf score. But it's not like that. Those things do not have to be such negative things that continue to tear you down, like Trinity was talking about. You can use that same disappointment instead as a lesson. That's a focus that you can do. That is something you physically can do. You may not be able to change some of your circumstances. You may not be able to change the people around you. You may not be able to convince other people to take responsibility for what they did to contribute to your situation. But what you can do is you can take the lesson from that, and instead of it being a lesson like I used to do, I used to look at it as a lesson as, don't trust that person anymore. Don't trust those people anymore.
Right.
You got to do it your damn self. You want to do this, only you can do this. I'll go get your cheese. No. Take it as a lesson like, okay, what did I contribute to the situation? I'm not saying that outside factors don't ever contribute. What I'm saying is the only things I can change, though, are the things that I contribute to it, right? So the more lessons I learn right now, I mean, I get how to use that lesson today, but if I keep accumulating those lessons, here's what's going to happen. I'm naturally, instinctually later on going to do the right thing. I'm naturally, instinctually later on going to maneuver correctly. And Trinity, that's what I have found in my life. Not that I'm great at getting things right away, because I'm not. I'm very hard-headed. I'm very stubborn.
No.
I'm very aggressive. All that stuff. I love to blame other people immediately. My immediate first response is F you, get out of my way, and then later on, I process. But I do go back and take it as a lesson, like I'm telling you right now. I'm not just BSing this. I mean, it's what I do. And so what I have found is instinctually, later on, I just make different decisions. And I think that's the healthier way to be if you instinctually become a different person. I would hate to have to consciously think of every problem so thoroughly. Look, man, I got a team in my head that I need to trust, because at the end of the day, some of the worst things in your life come at you really fast. And just like a punch, you got to be able to either move out of the way or block it really fast. You don't have time to think. That's the kind of response I want.
Yeah, and one of the things that's helped me that I learned years ago in doing groups, and it went over. It's such a it appears at face value as such a dumb little minute kind of thing, but I've noticed how impactful it's been in not only other people's lives but even my own. And it's a dumb little trick. I swear, if you're expecting me to give you
dumb
cancer,
tricks.
it's not going to happen.
I love dumb tricks.
But it's just something as simple as, instead of saying somebody did that wrong, I just say you were unskillful.
Yeah, you do use that a lot.
I use unskillful a lot, and the reason why is because I know if I tell somebody you did that wrong, or somebody tells me you did it wrong, my immediate response, oh, okay, I'm wrong, I'm done. There's a finality to wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas if I say you did something unskillfully, my first thought is, I can get better then.
Yeah, I like that.
Like, I can learn skills, I can get better at that, and so it's not as defeating as you just did it wrong. And so when I say, well, you just did that unskillfully, we just need to work on that, we need to get better. And so when I do something that disappoints myself, that's how I approach it now. It's like, I was just unskillful, I need to get better at that. Having said that, we had a couple of really good comments that I want to mention.
Okay.
One is from it's either Liza or Lisa. It's Liza. She says, always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. So being true to yourself is so important. Yes, like spot on. I love that statement. I'm probably going to steal that, just so you know.
Right.
And the next one was from Mindy. She says, I finally stopped beating myself up and started focusing on what I can do better next time.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, those are exactly kind of what we're talking about.
Yes, that prevents paralysis.
Yes.
That prevents paralysis. Absolutely. And that prevents you attacking other people, which just create more problems for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that paralysis thing is a legit thing.
Oh my God, it's so legit.
There's I say this a lot.
Right.
We get mad at other people for hurting us and for letting us down and everything else. And you said at the top of the show, nobody has hurt you more or let you down more than you.
Nobody.
And so work on yourself, work on your perspective, work on your spirituality. This is a spiritual show. Like, work on that internal peace. When you work on the internal peace, you'll notice that everything outside of yourself, it just doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't. Like, there were so many things I thought of that mattered, and I was disappointed in myself because there was benchmarks and expectations and all these things I placed on myself. But as I got older and I learned more and I reached a certain internal peace,
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't matter. Yeah, it's nice. I'm definitely going to shoot for things. But if I don't, I'm good. I'm still okay. Like, my life is okay. I'm still happy. I still got a wonderful family. I still got, all these other things. And so I think that takes away the power of these potential devastations, if you will.
Yeah.
And that then by taking that power away, you're no longer paralyzed anymore.
Right.
Because you no longer fear the outcome, good or bad. It's just going to be what it is. I'm going to be okay regardless.
You know what we forget? I think all too often, I think we forget that we have invented, the only reason we invented a reset button is because reset does exist. Now, you don't reset completely to zero,
Right.
but you can reset. You can restart. And I think everything we see in our outside world, I think, is kind of like there's some sort of metaphor internally that we can use. For instance, like our travel through, our trucking industry to me is like bloodlines, like
Sure.
our roads are like bloodlines. Electricity
Sure.
is like, our phone systems, we have the same internal phone systems and electricity. But I think that also exists in things like a restart button. Like, I can restart my life today. I can literally like stop and start because some of us have done it.
Yeah.
I mean, am I completely a different person than when I was before? Well, not completely, but if you would look at a lot of things that I like, a lot of things that I do, some of the things that come real natural right now, that just wasn't the me of then.
Right.
So that's changed. But when you focus on yourself never being able to change and saying that's just the way I am, and you accept that, and you accept that in a way, there's a difference between the acceptance that's actually necessary and the acceptance that's harmful. And what I'm talking about right now is the acceptance that's harmful. Like, there are generations of people that have not yet been able to get out of bad situations. Generations. So it's like that learned helplessness gets carried on to the next generation. Like, you're never gonna be nothing. You aren't nothing. Like, if I walked around with a bloodline, instead of feeling like a proud Delgado, I felt like a horrible Delgado. The Delgados always have nothing and get nothing. Well, damn, then I breathe that into my kids, and they feel like, because you're a Delgado, you're never going to have nothing, you're never nothing. That becomes very generational. So sometimes you have to do a lot of internal hard work to say, you know what, I'm choosing to restart this entire thing over. Because here's the one positive you have. You still were the strongest, fastest swimmer. And with that reality...
We're all born winners.
With that reality, all the other stuff is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because with that's a fact. The fact is you beat out millions to be here. Yeah. So regardless of what people may tell you, regardless of what you may tell yourself, you survive every day in a very complicated world where you could have died in every second of every day. You've crossed I don't know how many roads. You've bypassed I don't know how many things. You haven't gotten electrocuted and died from that. You haven't fallen off a bridge. There's a lot of things that people bad shit that happens every day that for some reason your instincts have kept you away from that. Yeah. And even if you have had all that stuff and you have been shot, you're still alive. So.
Yeah, well, and there's another thing that you said earlier that I want to touch on, and that was you talked about like change, for instance. I've heard that a lot with people who are like, "Oh, you've changed."
Yeah.
And my answer is usually, "Thank you."
I've adapted.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
And that is, we got to stop looking at change as a bad thing. Yeah. We got to stop this idea of I'm going to, like, I think where I'm at right now is great, and I want to maintain this forever.
Right.
No, like, I think where I'm at, I think I've evolved a lot where I'm at now compared to where I was even a year ago, 2 years ago. Who knows?
You have to.
But as much as I like my current position, if you told me that a year from now I won't grow at all, I'm going to be pretty upset. Like, I want to grow even more. Like, I don't ever want to stop, because if I stop, then that means I've stopped learning, I've stopped growing. Like, and by no means do I think I'm a perfect individual.
Right.
And so even when it comes to our goals, we have to keep that in mind. Your goals shouldn't be based upon staying who you are forever. Your goals should also evolve with you as you evolve.
Right.
Like, that should be one of your goals, is to evolve. And so maybe you have to readdress some of those expectations of yourself. Like, for instance, you kind of said it earlier, and that is, my expectations of who I was or who I was going to be when I was 19, 20 years old, I failed those.
I sure did.
Right? Like, if you would have told me at 19, 20 years old that I was going to be almost 40 with 4 kids, a wife, a mortgage, and all these other things, I would have been like, oh, kill me now. Like, that is not what I want for my life, you loser.
Driving a Toyota?
Yeah, I would be like,
I'm gonna be driving a Toyota?
you loser. God, that's pathetic. What the hell's wrong with you? I don't want that life.
The same woman for how many years and you're not cheating on her?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah, and so if I look at those expectations and those wants and needs that I had at that age, compared to where then I'm gonna be disappointed because I didn't live up to those. Having said that, I have evolved, which means my wants and my desires have evolved, which means my expectations evolved with that. And so now I approach everything through different expectations. And I'm smart enough to realize that what I want now is probably going to be different than what I want a month from now, 2 months from now. And so I have to be willing to evolve. I have to be fluid. I can't just be so stringent on this is what it's going to be. So that change in perspective has to come as well.
Right.
Oftentimes people are asking me, oh, well, is that successful? Well, it depends on how you define the success. The way I defined success when I was 19, no, I'm not successful today at all.
That's right.
Because at 19, to me, success was millions in the bank, flying around in private jets, having a Lamborghini, like all these crazy dreams I had at 19.
Right.
I don't have any of that.
Right.
So I'm a complete failure to the 19-year-old me.
Right.
Having said that, if I were able to talk to my 19-year-old me now as who I am, the first thing I do is smack him in the back of the head like, idiot. Like, you were so wrong on so many levels. Like, wisen up, fool.
Wait, I have to at least mention this. And it wasn't because we accepted mediocrity. It was because our value system changed.
Yes.
When you're younger, your value system is just, a lot of it is dependent upon emotional stuff.
Yeah.
So depending on how you felt within your home system and because as a child it's so confining, right? Everything is no.
Yeah.
So everything,
no.
So there's so many no's that you place a big value on what you want. Not what you need, what you want. But it feels like a need. I need to get the out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's not very spiritual either. It's all materialistic.
No. And so I think that's an important thing that we did need to address, though, to make sure that it wasn't that you just accept mediocrity, just settle because now the reality is that you're never gonna get it. You're a failure, like you were. Blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what it is.
Well, and if you tell me I'm settling for happiness, okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna call happiness settling, then all right, cool, I'll take it. Like, what does it matter? You can call it whatever you want, as long as at the end of the day I'm happy and I feel good. You can call it settling. You can call it failure. You can call it success. I don't care. I'm good, man. And so I think though that I think a lot of the self-disappointment comes from unrealistic expectations or lack of self-awareness even. Right. And I think that right there to me is one of the biggest things I got from spirituality. And I keep going back. I keep driving that word in. First of all, we are a spiritual show. Second of all, I think spirituality does save lives. I think spirituality really does give us that grounding, that grounding factor that we all kind of need.
Right.
And I think self-disappointment does come from these weird ideas of what we think we are as opposed to what we actually are.
And you do also put value in other people's opinions. I mean, I know that a lot of us have lived a period of life where we didn't want to value anyone's opinions because we felt like they were all negative. So you start only depending on how you feel about yourself and screw the world. This is me. I'm gonna do me. That kind of attitude. However, then you get older and, like you said, evolve and you mature and you start. You have a wife or a husband and you have children and stuff like that. You kind of have to listen to what they're saying as well, because if you just stick to what you think and what you feel and you start ignoring the people that really have your best interest at heart, the people that really feel deeply about you, you're probably going to do yourself a disservice also, because we can go off track. We can go off track. And I don't want to go off track. So as much as I feel like I'm right every single time I argue with my kids, I feel like I'm right every single time I argue with my wife. I really do. I feel 100% right, and I feel 100% justified in everything I say and everything I do. I'll be honest with you. But that's an impossibility, though.
Well, we wouldn't say it if we didn't feel right at the time.
It's just impossible to be right all the time.
Of course.
It's nobody hits the baseball every day. I mean, hits a home run every time they hit. They just don't. Sometimes you strike out. Well, it's always a sports thing, right?
Yeah.
It's always a sports thing. Women that watch the show must always say, "Do you guys always have to reference sports whenever
Yes.
you?" Yes. As a matter of fact, we do. Sports make sense to us. Yes.
We need to have like a translator with us.
Right.
You know when you're putting foundation on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, see that's not, now we sounded sexist, and we're really
that's
not.
all right.
But okay, send the letters to him, the emails to him. So, anyway, so what I'm saying is that disappointment. Sometimes we have to adjust a little bit. It's there are little decisions daily, little tiny little movements every day. I didn't get to a bad place very quickly. I didn't get to a bad place in one day. And if you think about it, like in recovery terms, like, how do you get out of the middle of a forest? Well, one step at a time. You got to walk the same amount of distance that it took to get in the middle of the problem. It's going to take you to get out. But we expect that I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We expect that I'm going to be able to get out of this forest in the middle of a problem that fast. No, it's going to take a lot of gradual time, and those are more sustainable. It's more sustainable to change slowly and mature, like you said, evolve. I like that. It's more sustainable to evolve slowly than to just get it overnight. Even if, like, you're watching right now and you're in the middle of a huge depression and you're feeling suicidal and you're thinking, okay, I get it. I need to start working. It's not going to happen overnight. I would recommend you continue to read, you continue to watch things, you continue to be around people that are making you feel good about the movements you are doing, and you will get there.
We'll put the same amount of effort into changing as you did thinking that way.
Right.
Because we think, those thoughts 24/7 for some of us.
Right.
But yet we'll like read one paragraph and be like, oh, that's it, I'm done. I've decided. Not quite.
Yeah.
Like I have people who come to me in the fitness world, right? And everybody in the fitness world, dude, they want to go work out on a Monday and be where they want to be fitness-wise on a Friday. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. My answer to them was always, I'm sorry, did you wake up overnight 80 pounds heavier?
Right.
No, it took you like 10 years to put it on.
Right.
It's going to take you a while to take it off as well. Hopefully not 10 years, but it came on over 10 years, and I think that yes, I think too many times it goes back to what we were saying about unrealistic expectations. They if you're one of the last week we talked about forgiveness, right? And that same thing, you can't just say to yourself, I'm gonna forgive this person,
right, and
then be shocked when tomorrow you're still harboring feelings of resentment towards that person. Well, but I already said I forgive it. Well, congratulations, but it takes time, and effort and intention to get that to happen.
One of my favorite teachers of all time that I had, Mr. Jansen, Texas history, 7th and 8th grade, by the way.
Well, they did 7th and 8th grade back then?
No, he failed me. Yeah, they did. In the little schoolhouse. So I was on the prairie.
There you
little
go,
house.
man.
No, so Mr. Jansen used to say, you're digging yourself a hole, son. You're digging yourself a hole. And this is why I call him my favorite teacher. Number one, he failed me no matter what kind of fight I took to him, no matter what manipulation I gave him. He stuck to his guns and he failed me, and I had to do the class over again. But the most important part was that lesson that he said, you're digging yourself a hole. I took that on, and I couldn't get that out of my head for forever. And all those early years of recovery, and all those early years of trying to figure out why I keep, doing the same thing, right? And the way I finally came about it is that I needed to recognize the difference between a rope to get out of the hole, or a help, or people that were giving me ladders, or people that were giving me rope, as opposed to people that were like jumping in the hole with me with shovels and digging deeper.
Right. Yeah.
And I struggled with learning the difference between a shovel and a rope. It sounds simple, but it's not, because I was always looking at what I thought was a rope. Oh my God, that really was another shovel, and I was digging, and I was thinking somehow I'm going to dig so far, and then I'm going to get out, and I'm going to go through China, or I'm going to dig in an angle, and I'm going to get up, but I'm definitely not going to take that rope, because that rope is the devil. That rope is the bad. That rope is somehow giving into the system, or to the man, or to government, or whatever it was.
Right.
No, learning how to identify what keeps you in a negative space, not only about others but in yourself internally, I think is really key. Well,
and the other thing, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I have it written down here, actually,
good.
to touch on,
okay.
And that is, if you find yourself constantly disappointing yourself, like, there's something happening, and you find yourself constantly, like, not meeting that particular expectation, maybe it's time to, as we put on here, take the ass whooping.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time to finally just admit, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I get rid of that expectation,
Yeah.
but that means maybe I reach out for help.
Yeah.
Maybe all these people who have been coming to me, telling me, hey, you're not good at this, you need to do it this way, instead of me saying, yeah, I tried that, it doesn't work, or I've done this, or you don't really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just shut up and listen, because I think I've proven it's not working for me. One of my favorite, how's that working for you?
Yep.
It's not. So instead of constantly trying to do the same thing over and over and over again and then getting pissed off every single time it's not working, maybe it's time for me to say, you know what, I think I've proven over my track record I'm just not good at this. I am not going to make this happen.
Dude, if you suck at it, you suck at it.
I just suck at it.
Okay.
But I've got a whole army of friends and family members that keep telling me I suck at it and keep telling me ways I can fix it. Maybe, just maybe, I should listen.
Yeah.
You know, I want to put that out there.
Yeah, maybe you're that person. Maybe you're that person on American Idol that thinks they can sing.
Yeah,
maybe you think I'm the greatest singer and this show's going to go nowhere because
my
you
mom
should
told
have
me I'm the best.
That's right. You might be that singer.
Yes. Yeah, we're not all the Michael Jordan of everything.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Stop trying to tell me how great you are at it.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, and learn to understand when somebody's throwing you the rope.
Yeah.
Learn to understand when there's a genuine, solution there that somebody's offering to you. Like, there is a way out. And that's the one thing about humanity that I love the most is, man, we as a society, we forgive and we love to help people who are helping themselves.
You know, like in another sports reference. Trinity, I want to ask you something.
Yes.
What athlete do we know of? What athlete or professional that we know of doesn't have a coach still or a teacher still? Like, don't
None.
you ever wonder, like, when you see, like, I remember the first time I went to a live PGA event and I saw Tiger Woods and he was on the practice tee and he had a coach there telling what he was doing right and wrong with his swing. And I was thinking, who the F do you think you are? You're actually
correcting Tiger.
That you're not even a professional player at his level and you're actually telling Tiger how to better swing.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that true, though?
Yeah.
Because isn't that weird how the best of the best, the Michael Jordans of Michael Jordan, still have someone
Michael
tell
Jordan
them,
had Phil Jackson,
help me shoot better.
Yeah.
Help me get. So if they're going to do it, what makes you think you can't use some help or advice yourself?
Yes.
Of course, reaching out for help is good.
No, that is one of the most arrogant and asinine things I think I've heard from people.
Practice?
When I start talking about spirituality, for instance, and people are like, "Oh, I don't need that." Like, really? So let me get this straight.
Yep.
Something like, for instance, Buddhism's been around for over 3,000 years. It's helped
Yeah.
millions of people. But you're the one that doesn't need it.
Right.
You're the outlier.
Yeah.
You're the one that's like, I don't need that.
Right.
Really?
Right.
Interesting. Well, I'm not. Nowhere else in my life am I the outlier. I fit statistically pretty much within a group somewhere. Right. But in that one particular area, like, my whole thing is life is complicated, man. Life is just, it's rough. It's complicated. It's been around a long time. So to think that in your years, I don't care if you're 70, to think in 70 years you figured out life. Really? Just stop and think about that for just a second. Really? Life is complicated, man. There's so many different nuances. There's literally as many perspectives as there are people on this fucking planet. And you're going to tell me you figured them all out.
Right.
Really?
Right.
No, man. Some humility. Accept help.
And not every decision is good for everybody. You say it best with that analogy you use, like when you get a flat tire.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bad day for you, but it's a great day for the guy that fixes tires.
Exactly.
That tow truck driver's happy.
The only reason why we call things good or bad is because it doesn't fit within our previous expectations. If you expected to go home without a flat tire, then you get one, you're calling it a bad thing. But if you expected to get a flat tire, then it just is. And so what you call bad is, like the guy who's sitting by the phone waiting to get that call to feed his family. Flat tires are great for business.
Absolutely.
Woohoo, I love construction sites.
Absolutely.
So it's all about perspective, man.
Yeah. Where would heart surgeons be without heart disease?
At home.
You know what I mean? They wouldn't be driving that Porsche.
No, surely not. But yeah, so I mean, I think that I guess a dose of reality really is kind of what helps with that self-disappointment. A dose of reality as far as realistic expectations, a realistic assessment of where you're at, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Right. All those types of things, man. I think that addressing that definitely stops the paralysis.
You know, that self-pity stuff reminds me of, I was in a meeting one time, and this guy was talking about how, you know, he had to go to a bunch of meetings, and he was driving, he had to go to a bunch of meetings, and he was really upset about it. And then another guy goes, wait a minute, you have a car? You had a car? You went to meetings in a car? He goes, I rode a bike, and I had to go to 3 meetings a day. And he just ran them up and down. I'm thinking, damn, this old man got him, right? Then another old man goes,
I had to walk.
You had a bike?
Yeah.
You know, and it reminds me of one of the little tricks that I did. And it's not a great trick. It's not a nice guy trick. Let's put it this way. But it was a trick I used early on.
Is that your disclaimer?
Yeah. It's my disclaimer. Because early on, when I was real frustrated, and I was working through all these things and listening to things like that, like those guys in the room, I used people in worse circumstances to feel better about myself. And I got it from a room somewhere. Like I said, you know, like when you're driving and you see that guy with the muffler that's hanging by a wire and he's used a wire, just think better about yourself at that moment. Just it was a little trick. Just start feeling some positive feelings about yourself. Like, whoa, at least I don't have that muffler.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, it makes you think, because everybody always says, "Oh, there's always someone worse than you." And you and I have joked a lot. It says, "Man, whoever's
what about that one person?
There's got to be somebody out there that's like the bottom,
nope,
right?
That's it.
Right.
You're the worst."
But there is, and I'm not saying feel better about yourself because there's always someone worse. But instead, look at it like just how many layers down there is. There's levels up, and look. The reality is there are people that are going to have worse circumstances. The reality is you are going to have worse circumstances than somebody else. But I don't have to be at the bottom, and I don't have to pretend to be at the bottom every day. I just don't. I can move up. I can progress forward. I like a 5. I like being a 5. I don't want to be a 10. I definitely don't want to be a 0. But I like a 5 because there's very little expectations on me. Just like when I had C's as a student, dude, my mom never worried. If I had a C, my mom was happy.
Oh,
my brother got a B, and he freaked the hell out.
Right.
A B. Well, that's because he had A as an expectation. I'm not saying don't have high expectations.
It makes me think of the Saturday Night Live, lowered expectation.
What I'm saying is some of us do really well at just average. I'm good at being average. But the things that I excel at, I'll let you tell me that I excel at them. I don't need to mentally, I excel. I'll let you tell me. Because at the end of the day, there's always better and there's always worse. But I'm not going to focus on how bad I got it. Because that does me no good.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, you know, it kind of goes back to why we wanted to do this show in the first place. Yeah. You know, the whole point. You know, every week we try to come up with a show that we feel that we can provide value for somebody. Right. You know, and we know that not everybody's going to have this exact problem at the moment, but maybe you do. Maybe somebody on your timeline does, which is why you should share it all. But maybe somebody
that was good training.
Maybe somebody you know is dealing with this, and what we want everybody to walk away with is it's going to be okay. Right? Like at the end of the day, yeah, all right, you're disappointed. Now what? Like let's move on. Let's look at it as a lesson. Let's figure out where we went wrong, pick ourselves up, and go. Yeah. You know, don't get paralyzed. Don't get so down on yourself that now you question everything you've ever done and everything you're gonna do. Don't blame, you know, your world. Sorry, I'm in the middle, but it's not Trump's fault. It's not Obama's fault. It's not the 7-Eleven clerk's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's not your spouse's fault. You screwed up. It is what it is. Something didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Great. Now what? You know, put it in its proper place. Don't make a, don't cry over spilled milk. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. You know, these all cliches have been around for years for a reason. Yeah. They're true. Yeah. You know, they're going to help you be productive, because at the end of the day, man, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody on their deathbed looking back at every little tiny mistake they've ever made in their lives. You know, I think they're looking at the big ones. You know, and so focus on what you're doing right, and focus on how you can fix what you've done wrong. Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, and I choose to look at it as skillful. Figure out what areas in your life that you need to work on those skills, and what areas of your life you've gotten better in those skills, and then just continue to progress forward. To me, I think that's the more productive way. That's the healthier way. That's the one that's more likely to bring you inner peace. Because if you're going to sit around and dwell on things and get all disappointed in yourself and, oh, woe is me, how's that working for you?
Yeah, feed the evolution.
You know, is that helping you grow? Is that going to get you where you want to be? Assuming your goal is to get better at that, whatever that is that you disappointed yourself in, is sitting around acknowledging how bad you were at it going to help you? Is that teaching you anything? Is that gaining skills in your life? No. Okay, so probably don't do that anymore. Find another way to get those skills. You know, and find the inner peace.
You know, starving that self-sabotage is going to be vital.
Yes.
You know, you starve that sabotage, and you feed the evolution within. We evolve. We just naturally do, as a people, as a person, individually, as a culture, everything. And you know, here's the deal. This is how comfortable we really are right now. We're so comfortable right now that we actually talk about a lot of stuff that's like really nonsense. You know, we create problems out of nonsense. That's how comfortable we are as a people.
Yeah.
When you can sit in your life and be disappointed about little small things.
What they call it, first world problems.
Yeah. We definitely have first world problems. You know, because there's people right now that, you know, their complaints are legitimate. They don't have food. They don't have clean water. They don't have medical at all.
Yeah.
You know, realistically, you might think you don't have medical, but you can go to any emergency room. You're going to get taken care of. You may not. You don't even have to pay for it.
Yeah.
You just have bad credit, but you don't have to pay for it. There's people that don't even have that. So there's a lot of things that are just like not balanced. You know, I don't like to upset that balance that exists in the world, Trinity. Like I don't know what all my privileges are. But I'm also not going to be mad about my privileges. I'm going to take advantage of every friggin' privilege I have, because that's the way it really is. The reason you have the privilege and you were given the privilege is to use it, not abuse it, but use it. Right. And then help others come behind you. Create that wake. Right. Create that wake, that cut in the you know, like that cut in the forest where you're cutting down with a machete. There's always that first guy, right? You always think about that first guy.
Trailblazers.
Wouldn't you hate that person? I would hate to be the person that was in the front of the line cutting, because that's the one that saw the alligator first, or the snake first, or whatever.
Yeah. You know, the one that got eaten by the alligator.
Yeah.
But number 2 is like, hey, there's alligators here.
But I also don't want to be the guy in the way back, because that's the one in the horror movies that got like the predator gets.
You're the first one that gets taken.
And you turn around and go, what happened to John? What happened to him?
He's gone.
And he got sucked out. You want to kind of be in the middle. So just be the middle, man. Be the middle. Be happy with it.
How do I follow that?
It's a movie reference.
Yeah, I don't
man,
know.
You know?
We went from sports to movies. I like it.
Because it's true.
It is.
That first person, man, I don't know about that. You know, like the first guy to go into the house with the gun? If I'm sitting there and I'm a bad guy and I'm thinking, all right, death by cop, don't be that first one, because I'm getting the first one. You know what I mean? God, I would hate that. The first guy in has got the worst job in the world.
Sure. We'll go there. Why not?
Right?
It just don't be like that guy in Lakeland, man. That told all the kids what he would do. That's a horrible one.
Ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
Anyways, we only got a couple minutes, man. Any last thoughts that you want to bestow upon us about self-disappointment?
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff you brought up today, and especially you know, this has been going on for years and years and generations, way before you, way after you. Look, so you've disappointed yourself. So have I. So it's Trinity. We've all disappointed ourselves. You know, and as uncool as it is to say right now, you got to shake the shit off and move on. There's really very little else that we can do. I mean, in reality, at the end of the day, we could say it all kinds of real nice therapeutic ways. We can be all empathetic and loving and huggy, and we could sing Kumbaya and all that shit. But at the end of the day, we really do have to shake it off. Yep. Now, I may have to come to terms with it psychologically in a lot of different ways, and I may need that empathy and love so that I can shake it off. But the hard line at the end is I do have to shake this shit off, and I got to move forward. So, Trinity, I thank you for this topic. I like that you brought it up. The self sabotage,
disappointment,
self-disappointment. I call it self-sabotage.
You're with me the whole time.
I'm with you the whole time, but no, I do call it self-sabotage in my head, because
well, that's what it is, right? Like
over and over again.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll leave you to your three tips for the people. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, man. All right. So as usual, you guys who watch this on a consistent basis, you know, at the end we try to give some tips, some actionable items for you guys to do to follow through with this, as opposed to just listen to us run our mouths all day. So the 3 tips that we came up with today is number 1, understand that self-disappointments happen. And you could choose to look at those as devastating, pitfalls, or you can choose to look at them as lessons. But make no mistake, self-disappointments are going to happen, but you can always choose to say, you know what, that was a lesson, that's something I can learn and get better from. The second part is take the ass whooping sometimes. In other words, understand that whatever that disappointment was, maybe you're just not that good at it, and maybe you need help. Learn how to identify areas that you just don't have those skills yet, and go get those skills. Find somebody that can help you get them, and get them from them. In other words, don't continue to try to say, "Oh, I'm going to just bulldoze through this." Identify the help, take the help, and then lastly, the third one is when it comes to changes in your life, behavioral changes, instead of thinking that just because you made the decision to change, then all of a sudden you should be changed tomorrow, it doesn't work that way. Instead, think of it as more of like a gradual change, like a curvature, as opposed to, as he pointed out, a 90-degree angle. Other words, little decisions, little micro decisions, little wins for yourself on a daily basis that eventually get you to that end goal is what you should be focused on. You can't go from 0 to 60. To use an old adage, you got to crawl before you can walk. Well, same thing. You gotta do the hard work. You gotta do the foundation before you can achieve whatever that is that you're looking to do. That behavioral change. So, that's all we got today. Thank you so much for tuning in. By all means, remember, you can always subscribe to us on youtube.com/Dharma Time. Follow us on social media at WPSN99, at The Dope Doctor, at The Dharma Guy. And I think that's all we got. So now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.